Guys, my little Halloweenies out there, it's time for your daily dose of the 31 days of horror. It's time for your medicine. Come get your horror medicine today. I am the Randy Mole, recording this for the Jumbo Shango Randy Mole movie show. And today I am here to talk about Joe Dante's movie The Hole, or The Hole 3D, as it was also known. A movie from a few years back that kind of slipped under the radar a little bit. Joe Dante is a legend. You know, he doesn't really make bad movies. You know, we can talk about the Gremlins, The Howling. The most recent one was called Bury in the X or something like that. But this one, The Hole, was his last cinematic release, at least in this country. And that's kind of an important point to pause on for a second, actually. In America, this got, shoveled all around the place. It got delayed, and I don't think it ever got a proper run, even though it came out when 3D was like a big thing. And I get that. And the reason I think that probably happened is they weren't entirely sure how to market it. Because, to give you the synopsis, this is a family horror movie. But it is much more horror than I think it is family, in many ways. I watched it with my kids. I've watched this film a few times. I saw it at the cinema, and I watched it with my eldest son a couple of years back, and I've just watched it with my youngest son, who is 8, and it really troubled him. It really pushed those lines of what he was willing to take as a horror film. This film scared him. So what's it about? It's about a family that moved to a new town, moved to this nice house in the suburbs. Now you know that they're kind of escaping something, if you like, and that kind of comes out in the story. But effectively, it's mum and 2 kids, older teenager, slightly younger teenager, and they've moved there for mum's job. But also we find out in the story that dad has been abusive to the boys. He's in prison, and whenever he finds out where they are, they move. So whenever he sends them a letter, they effectively move again. Now, when they move to this place, they've got a next door neighbour. The older teenager clearly fancies her, and it's played by Hayley Bennett. Now, Hayley Bennett has gone on to be a phenomenal actress in lots of movies. Watched one the other day with her in, called, is it Swallowed? Is it called Swallow? Where she eats things. Watch that, but I'm not going to talk about that now. That's a harsh film. But yeah, she I guess this was a film that gave her a big break. And I have to say, she steals a lot of it. She lights up the screen. She's a proper starlet in the making. And she's the next door neighbour. And they become friends, and they bond over the fact that they find a hole. Just a hole in the garage. It's all padlocked over, and they open it up, and there's a hole. They put things in the hole, they drop things down the hole, and it just seems to go on forever. And they don't know they can't work out what this hole's there. I mean, that setup is Goosebumps, isn't it? It's just your classic Goosebumps setup, simple setup. Now, what they don't know is what comes out of the hole is effectively your fears. There's a line in it that they go to invest. They found out who used to live there before, and it's Dick Miller. Dick Miller, because it's a Joe Dante film. And they go see him, and he now lives in a glove factory, an abandoned glove factory that's just full of hands and so on. It's like proper scary, and he's sits there in the light because he's scared of the dark. And he explains to them that the hole has been there since the first Scream. And at that point, I'm like, take my money. This is a perfectly structured horror film. It is so well done that it brings in every horror film cliche, from the almost J-horror ghost girl style image, to a big brooding monster, to the clown doll. It has everything in that you've seen in films before, all put together into what is effectively a greatest hits, and it hits. It really hits. So what do I like about this film? I love the way it looks. I love the score. I love the soundtrack. I love the direction from Joe Dante. I love the acting, and I love the setup for the scares. And I would say they are scary. They definitely would scare children, and they did. And they work for an adult as well. Effectively, whatever the kids are scared of is what has come out the hole to haunt them. So, you know, we're into the territory of A Nightmare on Elm Street and It, really, but played for a younger audience. There's a great gore scene, for a film that's aimed at kids. There is a policeman that comes, and the whole back of his head is like smashed in, and you can see his brains and everything. It's like, oh my life, how is this aimed at kids? It's really good. It's really good. Now, I've seen this film 3 or 4 times, and the first time I saw it, I didn't like the end setting, the end scene. And to talk about what I disliked about it was the ending. It kind of goes a little bit Tim Burton-y as they kind of go into the holes and into the hole, to face their fears, if you like. And it has this whole world where it kind of moves and everything's really big, and I find it that I didn't like as much. But having rewatched it a couple of times, I'm into it because I get the reasoning behind it. You know, they're scared of the dad. So in the image from changed. Look at that background change. They see him as this giant monster. So they see the world really big and all a little bit off kilter because it's their memory of what dad was like, not their actual dad. But I think the other thing I didn't like that led to me not liking the ending is because that is pretty deep. That is a pretty deep, pretty heavy storyline. And because it's aimed at the younger family market, it's the family market, not even the teen market, they dilute some elements of that story. They dilute some of the elements of what was that abuse. And that kind of meant you don't quite, at the ending, get initially, on first glance, what's fully going on. And it's interesting that they've probably played down a little bit of the abuse from the father, and you know what actually he did and what the fear is, and that's played down. Yet they keep the scares. So there's something in that doesn't quite land for me, but I'm willing to forgive it because I think the film is such a good time. It's a good time horror movie. It feels fun. It feels fresh, it feels exciting, and I can't believe people haven't seen it. I saw this in 3D at the cinema, and it was good in 3D. Some of the bits were set to make you kind of go, ooh, but it works just as well at home on the TV. So I'm going to say this is a 4 pumpkin movie. It is well worth your time. If you've got kids that you want to get them into horror, it's a very good My First Horror, but it is definitely a cut above other films like that. I think although it's much more kid orientated and kid driven, it is on par with things like Poltergeist in terms of its scareness. But great. The other thing I would say, the reason I liked watching it with my kids is you can kind of get a feel of what horror they like from it because it has all the different horror genres kind of come through. My youngest son has realised he does not like gore, but actually quite likes ghosts. So that's quite interesting. He's like, I don't like the scary gore scene. Do you like the ghosts? And you get that. You'll be able to find what you do or don't like. Joe Dante's The Hole, 4 big fat pumpkins, go check it out. I'm off now to go see what's lurking in my garage. Looks like a load of junk and an old lawnmower. See you there.